Reach Transcendence. Chapter 1. Transcendence, the limits of life. I wanna be a transcendent man. Don't be afraid of who you are. I came into this world with nothing. All I owe anyone is to honor the God who created me by being who I am the way I was born to be. Then I'll die with nothing from the world except for what I came into it with, my spirit, and merge back into the great spirit from whence I came. My intuitive rules of operation that I feel inside of me are: don't amass material things beyond what I need for basic comfort, don't try to impose power and control over others including animals, don't be a consumer spectator, and honor God by releasing my natural energy the way He made me to be every single day of my life. The capitalist, Western worldview of love is a lie. It's about giving love to get love back from this outside entity you've given it to. But I give love either because I want to, because it makes me feel good, or because I feel I should, because I sense that person or animal needs me right then and there. I have no ownership theories over people and animals. Every time I encounter someone, even my closest intimates, it's with a clean slate. I make no assumptions about their love for me or that we owe each other anything. It's always about the relationship in the moment. I've lived through just about every type of human experience in life, and the only thing that really matters at the beginning and end of every day is how inspired you manage to stay all the time, because life goes on no matter what, and if you're not naturally inspired, you have no self-respect. Therefore nothing can make you feel good for longer than a few minutes, because your soul is empty. Even if everybody loves you and you have a big, fat bank account, it's like, so what if you won't wake up tomorrow with some kind of natural spirit for living your life with some kind of transcendent joy and intensity? It doesn't matter how loved, loving, rich, popular or famous you are. As long as you have enough money to cover your bills and are not constantly worrying about basic survival, the game, at least for people like me who I call bohemians, free spirits, and artists of life, is to maximize the inner spark I feel inside, to constantly release all my natural energy, the inspired, the loving and the hedonistic, to feel like my life is a barrel of fun, like I'm riding it as though I'm a strong thoroughbred going for a good run. It's great to have fun and release your natural energy. For me, it's my main job in life, simply because I know I have to honor my inherent standard every single day. Every day is a new day with a clean slate. You are always stuck in your head with yourself, alone. Life is a big fantasy in your mind for everybody. You can connect with your community, friends, relatives, loved ones, and pets to find common grounds of spiritual and pragmatic understanding here and there, but I know I'm still this lone ship, ultimately known to none but me, and I'll die that way, so that makes my life very simple. Honor who I am to earn my self-respect and maximize my happiness every day. I might care enough about my community and others enough to take on the responsibility to help them live better lives, but I might not. I always follow what's in my soul. I know it's always right, because if there's anything divine that created me, it gave me this and told me to follow it. Everything fades except for you alone every morning, asking yourself, what will you be today? Someone who walks with the gods by honoring who you were born to be through the intense release of your natural energy, or a pacified clone, doing some dull job, watching some TV, eating some junk food, taking it easy, enjoying some of that pop culture crap they're always feeding you with. The rule you see in virtually all love books is that you can't be a great lover of other people until you're first a lover of yourself enough to have a high sense of self-respect and inspiration to want to pass some of your love for your life on to others. So all these people looking for someone to change their lives ain't gonna find 'em, because it all originates from the inside of you. The logical thing about life that all wise people eventually come to is that the game, the pursuit, or the struggle is to try to maximize your feelings of well-being, and well-being comes from being satisfied that you blew a good to great load of inspired, loving, sensual energy today. All you have to do is ride your life every day like a racehorse running his race as he was born to do. This is the only true fountain of youth in the world. If you want to stay youthful, loose, and free forever, live as an enlightened bohemian. Transcendence 1. Beyond my release of natural energy every day to meet my inherent standard, the other thing that's very important for me but ethereal or weird to the average person is my hobby or pursuit of mystical transcendent experiences, which could be otherworldly. People get these types of experiences most commonly near death, when ingesting certain mind-altering substances, when starving for a week or two, after a long pilgrimage walking every day, through the Sweathouse Lodge, the Vision Quest and various other means to wear the resistance of the body down so that these images come flooding through, talking to the gods as some people say. I don't know what it is. Is it something real stored in our cell memory that our creators left us with, or is it some random physiological experience in the brain that ultimately means nothing? The natives of the Amazon say that when they use ayahuasca, they see the life in everything around them, including plants. I too have been in situations where I sensed this. For me, once you've experienced the state of being once or several times as I have, it's like what could be more interesting than this in life? There's something there. I don't know what it is. Something takes over your mind and the thoughts and images start to flow freely through no effort of your own. You're watching it like you'd watch a movie, except that it's in your mind's eye. It could be something supernatural hidden within us that comes out only when certain conditions are met. People say they have these life-changing spiritual mystical experiences all the time, but their intensity does fade as you live day by day and don't focus on them. I feel if there's anything I should do with the rest of my life, it's to try to experience the state of being to the point where I might be able to figure something out about it. I can't think of anything else that interests me much out in the world. I guess that happens after you've crossed this barrier. It's mystical. If there is something divine about us as human beings, this is it, much more so than some story somebody told you about some god who did a bunch of stuff that you can't prove one way or another. What is it? I don't know for sure, but to me it is the cutting edge or frontier of my life, my exploration of altered states of consciousness, which I've done many times through the use of mind-altering substances, where I enter a zone or a state of being where it seems as though I'm communicating with an autonomous being independent of me, or there is one inside of me, guiding my thoughts, creating many ideas and concepts that seem original to me that I have never thought before or seen those images I see in my mind's eye. I can't say for sure whether it's all a figment of the human imagination and physiological processes caused by mind-altering substances hitting my synapses in a certain way, or if there is some God memory or awareness stored in our genes which a few of us access within our lifetimes if and when we do certain things to open these memory cells up, a concept called the collective unconscious that the Neo-Freudian Carl Jung thought up. The shamans of the Amazon cultures who use ayahuasca believe that they actually enter another dimension and communicate with the gods or the spirit energy that lives in all life, including the plants. This is what I do that keeps my interest in my life going, but I won't talk about it much in this book since most people will never go this route because they've been brainwashed to think that anyone who uses recreational substances is some low-level junkie barely hanging on to their lives. If you want to explore this topic further, you can read the book I've written about mind-altering substances, read John C. Lilly's books, or go to totsi.com, lyceum.org, and arrowwood.org. Most people will always live in everyday consciousness and never experience an altered state of consciousness, which I think is a wasted life, but it demonstrates how powerful the propaganda machine is when they tell you that government-controlled substances are bad for you. I recently saw an anti-drug article written by some 20-year-old kid who looks like a little pansy who never even checked it out for himself. He's just a little clone thinking he's a good citizen by going along with the company line, but he's an idiot for allowing himself to be brainwashed like that. The truth is that some mind-altering substances are great for you because they open up the floodgates to your subconscious mind, which is the real you underneath all those layers of cultural brainwash. Many of us will never know who we really are underneath our cultural brainwash, but for people like me, it's all that matters. This is the simplest path to enlightenment. Take a dose of ecstasy or some other substance, then go through that visionary experience where the real you in your soul comes flooding through, away from everything you've ever been brainwashed by. You see who really are, and you can go back to your regular life confident that you're on the right path if, in fact, you've been following it. If not, then you know you're out of harmony with your true nature. Transcendence 2. There is the normal transcendence I can get by feeling good when I do an intense physical workout, a good, hard period of creative action, get a good dose of carnal sensual pleasure or shower some love and affection on somebody and get it back, but the pursuit of mystical states to me is to connect with the divinity within me, the source from whence I came, the seed that humanity comes from. It's inside all of us. I know because I've experienced it several times. I felt I was tapped into the universal life force. Freud coined the term the subconscious mind to identify the hidden part of us beyond our conscious minds that houses our sexual, violent, angry, and other thoughts we choose to repress for one reason or another. This is all fine and good, but there is a mystical state within the lexicon of human experience that goes beyond this. I believe there is something within us that taps into a primordial memory. It could be something hidden in our genes that most of us rarely access, but when you do, you feel as though you're tapped into something that originates from beyond you. I think it is the essence that created us, that is our origin. This is why I'm so big on what are called recreational substances. Sure, I do them for pleasure, but there is no other way on the planet that I have ever opened the floodgates of something inside of me that seemed to come from beyond me as extensively as when I take these so-called drugs. I get the odd wisp of surrealism here and there in straight consciousness, but once you've had one of these mystical types of experiences where you seem tapped into something from beyond you, it becomes a major interest because it's so cool, real, lucid and transcendent. Just about everything else on the planet fades beside it. Even though day by day, I live a relatively disciplined life honoring my inner standard through releasing X amount of inspired, physical, creative, intellectual, hedonistic, and loving energy all the time, the craving to feel this mystical component is always there. I'm always thinking about it and trying to get back there, which is not that easy in the present world simply because most of the substances I use to get there are illegal, so I can't just mosey on down to the corner drugstore and buy them. It takes a major effort to get them and do them in peace without worrying about getting hassled by the fuzz. So much for our free society where an individual can do what he wants as long as he is minding his own business and not hurting anyone else. As an enlightened free spirit, I don't need anybody to protect me from myself, but that's another story for another place. Free your mind from the box of cultural indoctrination to try to capture a flow of how the essence of your life should be lived. Live in the moment, being as alive as you feel is right for you. Your subconscious mind, that hidden area of primal feelings, has to come to the conscious part of your life and stay there. The ID and the conscious mind must become one. Enjoy your life, but don't be stupid. Many people have died doing things to try to stay eternally inspired or get the ultimate feeling. Only go so far, then when you sense real danger, back off. Save yourself for the long run. It's the only way to really win at life. Transcendence 3. A part of taking my life as far as I can go lies in the question of where we all come from as the collective human race, which should help me answer the question of my alleged eternal life after physical death, if it, in fact, exists. Did we come from nature, God, or some mortal but advanced extraterrestrial beings who created us through genetic engineering after they landed here, coming from a planet far away? I'm interested in trying to answer this question through my use of certain mind-altering substances for spiritual awakening which, up until now, have taken me to places that felt like they went into my subconscious mind and beyond it, where I tapped into some primordial universal life force Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, something that I share with all of humanity before me. It's kinda like what Baudelaire, the French intellectual, said in Artificial Paradises. This marvelous experience often occurs as if it were the effect of superior and invisible power acting on the person from without. This delightful and singular state gives no advance warning. It is as unexpected as a ghost, an intermittent haunting from which we must draw, if we are wise, the certainty of a better existence. This acuteness of thought, this enthusiasm of the senses and the spirit must have appeared to man through the ages as the first blessing. Why do I seek out transcendence? I have ceased to question stars and books, I have begun to listen to the teaching my blood whispers to me. Hermann Hesse. I have such a desire to experience the entire spectrum of life that I want to get as close as I can to my bare and naked primal and spiritual essences, so my path has become that of the pursuit of all manner of states of consciousness, even altered states, particularly spiritual mystical ones which are most easily attained through the traditional shamanistic route of ingesting certain hallucinogenic substances, but I have to be very careful because the society I live in can send me to jail for certain things I do to myself for my own pleasure, enlightenment, and life experience without bothering anybody else in the process. The problem for the free, enlightened type is that society has painted successful citizens as straight-laced, workaholic, one-dimensional, white-collar type people destroying themselves out in the workforce and demonized the pursuit of altered states of consciousness, while to me, the more natural life is the guy or gal who goes off to live a bohemian lifestyle, at least for a while, to meet different people, see different places and try different experiences, all in an effort to find his or her version of meaning and enlightenment in life. It's just instinct for a curious life seeker, but society tries to belittle this type of lifestyle because it's not productive in the capitalist sense. Once I found enlightenment, I had the awareness that put me beyond the glittery excess of the material world that most of us are concerned with, but I still had to survive at a basic level and live in the real world, so I'm very much a realist and pragmatist about consciously doing whatever it takes to keep a roof over my head, buy the things I need to enjoy my life and explore it, but beyond these basics of comfort, I could care less about most of the things the corporate material world finds appealing and valuable. It's about the constant flow of thoughts going through my brain and experiences flowing through my body. Everything always comes back to repeating those few deep transcendent experiences I had in the past during my accidental vision quests as a young guy exploring life, as well as the transcendent experiences I can reach on a nearly daily basis by engaging in my inspired creative, intellectual, and physical pursuits so intensely that I free myself from the general mundanity of the human condition for a while to soar above it and then relish in my pursuits of euphoric pleasures for the relaxation and enjoyment of it all. This is about as good as it gets while I'm stuck in the limits of this physical body I live in. I get beyond my mortal conscious state of mind through my attempts to reach transcendent states which are the divinity in me, which I presume I share with every other person on the planet. Locked away deep inside is a place I enjoy going to. To me, it's more real than the manufactured society I live in. Rumi, the 12th century Sufi mystic, said, "The day you were born a ladder was set up to help you escape from this world." It seems so true. I want to get beyond the mundanity of this physical, material world to live as inspired as I can all the time and touch moments of transcendence here and there that tell me what my divine soul is all about, if, in fact, it is divine. Nobody knows the truth for sure, but I do know I felt things inside of me that seemed to come from beyond me. It's kind of like Dannion Brinkley, one of the few people in the New Age scene I believe as being honest and real about their experiences. His near-death experiences opened up the floodgates of another world to him. I've felt the same, which is why this is now my major interest in life, these divine, mystical, otherworldly feelings inside of me that I want to access more clearly. This is the eternal question I must strive to answer by going within myself to look for it in this lifetime. It's the divine mystery of who I am and where I came from as a human being, the same mystery some of us enlightened seekers have sought the answer to ever since we were created somewhere, somehow, sometime way back when. That's the door I want to open while in my mortal body here on earth. I might not get there, but that's fine too. As long as that's my interest, I'm living my true life answering to the call of my soul. Once you've experienced this transcendent feeling of a higher power from within at least once, as I have, all the petty concerns of the material world pale exponentially next to how I live day by day trying to stay in my transcendent, inspired, sensual, surrealistic dreamy haze. Artists try to live out their lives by pursuing the beauty and truth within and trying to express it. I call this your highest vision of aesthetic beauty and try to live by it in the fantasy world in my head and in the real world, but I want to go further and try to re-experience these otherworldly sensations I've had on my accidental vision quests in the past while on hallucinogenic substances, this place Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, the Egyptians called the other side, and some Christians call God in his kingdom of heaven. They also talk about it in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The divine part of the soul. It's good to have money and the things money can buy, but it's good too, To check up once in a while and be sure you haven't lost the things money can't buy. George Horace Lorimer. Curving back on myself, I create again and again. Lord Krishna, Bhagavad Gita. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me, an invincible summer. Albert Camus. My highest aspiration in the pursuit of life is opening up and expressing the lurid tales that lie hidden away in my soul and possibly beyond it, to tap into some common thread of humanity locked away in all of us that comes from our deepest past somehow. One way to do it is to never stop following the creative thoughts that well up in your head by analyzing them, writing them out, painting them, creating music out of them, doing anything that strikes your fancy to explore and fulfill them. To an enlightened mind, creativity is simply the manifestation of what lies hidden away in the deepest core of your subconscious mind. I don't know how other people think, I only know how I think, which is as free as I can be, which means I censor nothing. I feel it all, the good, the pleasant, the profound, the frivolous, the bad, the evil, the mundane, the violent, the sexual, the carnal. As long as I don't act on my negative thoughts to hurt other people, it's perfectly alright for me to live freely in my mind, to allow everything that originates within me to come to the surface of my conscious mind so I can see it, not like I suspect much of the world population lives, which is to censor themselves and repress things they feel are dangerous and could be disturbing. In order to access the subconscious mind, you have to reach for transcendence, which comes in two conventional ways. 1. Intense exertion of soulful pursuits, intense creative and physical activities, to bring you to a state where you get wisps of it. 2. Conscious attempts to reach euphoric states of altered consciousness through many different routes like fasting, staying awake for as long as possible, sitting in a sweat lodge to lower your resistance, taking a long trek in the woods for several days at a time, the proverbial vision quest, a pilgrimage to an ancient natural or religious site, the practice of yoga, meditation, or being alone for at least a week with no media, no books, no pens, no paper, no intellectual stimulation around. But your own mind. Despite having done most of those activities, by themselves, they only gave me mild glimpses of the hidden dimensions of my soul, but they helped when I went on my vision quests of altered states of consciousness through the use of mind-altering substances, more commonly known as the vilified concept of recreational drugs, which is one of the biggest lies of a one-dimensional capitalist world, that mind-altering substances are bad when mystics, monks, philosophers, pharaohs, prophets, gurus, artists, priests, shamans, kings, emperors, wizards, geniuses, intellectuals, and sorcerers all throughout history have used them to try to reach transcendent states of consciousness, yet most of us have been so brainwashed that we simply dismiss them all as bad with one sweep of a small-minded, propaganda judgmental brush, while the pharmaceutical companies in cahoots with the medical industry consciously try to get as many people as they can hooked onto their legal drugs, not necessarily for the well-being of the patients/consumers but to line their pockets. If you want to listen to the so-called powers that be and attempt to be another successful clone, as they say, good for you, but if you want to live a full life, you have to sample all its flavors, including that deep lusty place that lies hidden away in your subconscious mind that I call Eden, your highest vision of aesthetic beauty that I try to live by with my soul/dream/subconscious mind, almost non-distinct from everyday reality, because that's the real essence of the individual soul, that torrid place of carnal lust, eternal beauty, and infinite wisdom that Freud called the ID, which is a great place to live even if mostly only in spirit due to the constraints of what they call the real material world. Beyond fulfilling my basic functional needs and some cheap thrills, the only use I have for money is to bring me closer to the concepts that reside in my subconscious mind, both spiritually and sensually, which is currently the purpose of my life. Carl Jung dedicated his life to pursuing his subconscious mind, which he felt was a link to the shared collective unconscious of all of humanity, i.e., the universal archetypes and shared experiences inside of everyone regardless of tribe of origin. It's like we all share some common seed or DNA that has, locked away in it, some elaborate concepts, ideas, and thoughts that go all the way back to our Creator's soul and could give those few people who can crack this code and access it the answers to some of the deepest questions of our existence. I've had some very funky experiences as a younger guy experimenting with drugs just for fun and adventure at that time, but they were so profound, clear, and fully formed that I've been obsessed with them ever since. Mind-altering substances serve two functions. 1. Pure pleasure as with a blast of coke. 2. To expand the mind as with mushrooms and acid, LSD, which sometimes give you the sensation of a movie going through your head that is not created by any conscious effort on your part. It just comes from somewhere in your brain or soul and you're sitting there absorbing it. John C. Lilly went on his wild trips doing ketamine in his deprivation chamber. If I had the financial means, this is the direction I would go in. Carl Jung said, I asked myself, what is the myth you are living? And found that I did not know. So I took it upon myself to get to know my myth, and I regarded this as the task of tasks. I simply had to do what unconscious or preconscious myth was forming me. John C. Lilly, johnclilly.com, now passed on, built a deprivation chamber to explore the limits of his mind and wrote about them through several of his books. Terence McKenna, Aldous Huxley, and Timothy Leary were life explorers who realized that the hidden part that lies deep within us, best characterized as the subconscious mind aka the human soul, is the frontier in the realm of exploring life. Wade Davis, an anthropologist nature activist who wrote The Serpent and the Rainbow among other books, spent much of his life commuting with different shamans around the world, breaking bread with them in the symbolic sense to try to access higher, mystical states. Some people try music, painting, performing arts, dancing or writing to try to expunge the contents of their subconscious mind and reach transcendence, which is all fine and good, but I've found I had to go further by subjecting myself to the entire realm of all states of consciousness. For me, there are two realms of the subconscious mind. The first is that seemingly superficial level of my primal essence known as my ID, which houses all my conceptions of lust, beauty, perfection, and pleasure in a surrealistic setting which I create routinely from the images and fantasies that are always on my mind. The deeper level, more hidden away, is glimpses, images and feelings I get of something that seems to have originated from beyond me, this spark of collective unconscious Jung talked about, the peace of God inside of me, some primordial supernatural force, who knows what it is, but I've grasped it several times and my life has been reduced to trying to get there over and over again, holding onto it for long enough to explore it at leisure to find out what it really is, but thus far it has eluded me. It comes in wisps. It never lasts. I can't create it. It comes on its own. I don't need a constant dose of transient experiences with other people in order to feel like I'm not alone in the world. I'm always connected to humanity by virtue of being a human, so that's not my problem, as it is with many people, to constantly feel a need to be socially and intimately connected to other people. My problem is to find the divine roots of my humanity inside of me, if, in fact, they exist. Is there something locked away in my mind and soul that tells me who I really am? Is there something inside of me that's immortal, part of a greater cosmic soul or not? I get these transcendent inklings here and there, like waking up from a vivid dream. They usually dissipate rapidly. I often only get glimpses of this place deeper than the subconscious mind, except when I open it up fully through my use of psychedelic substances, when it's all there crystal clear, which is why I believe in them as the precursors to enlightenment if used with this attitude in mind, like Aldous Huxley preached over 50 years ago in his book The Doors to Perception. This is my only true purpose in life, to earn enough money to enable me to continue to explore these altered states of consciousness, to go wherever they'll take me, then maybe write about them for the new generation that seems to have lost some of this free-thinking attitude that was out there before mass media pop culture took over and brainwashed almost everybody, starting in about the mid-70s when cable TV invaded the culture en masse, starting a proliferation of TV networks which have effectively reduced the enlightenment of most people's lives to the crud they see on mainstream TV. Look at it as my attempt to find whatever divine entity created me, if anything, to go back to that eternal place from whence I came. There's everyday normal consciousness, then there's the threshold of your limits, the boundaries of your consciousness beyond which is the unknown, which you might fear and run away from, which a lot of people do who just want a limited, comfortable life or approach these boundaries with curiosity and a willingness to explore. The world can be very clearly divided into these two types of people: those who take action to try for transcendent experiences to exceed their known limits to find what's on the frontier, and all the rest who are either happy with materially comfortable dull lives or trying to achieve the level of materially comfortable dull lives, thinking that this is the frontier of happiness and enlightenment. Life for the free visionaries who live for experience comes down to a search for the divine truth within you, to live out what's in your soul, which is why I'm so anti-pop culture and materialism, because they've reduced the naive, weaker ones among us into a massive sea of lost souls thinking they're cool and successful according to society's standards, but really have nothing inspired or transcendent to base their lives on. I'm enlightened enough to know the only things that have meaning are those things I feel in my soul, not the type of car I drive, how big my house is, how cool my clothes are, how many happening people I know supposedly from the cool part of town, or how much I belong to the supposed jet set of society. I'll live by my soul and die by it, which is the best I can do, to live by that divine part of me that's part of the greater divine force some people call God. Nothing in the world of people will ever come between me and my connection to this universal enlightened force. As a life explorer who's been there, done that for most of the things I wanted to do out in the world, I've found that the subconscious collective unconscious barrier is one of the few frontiers left for me, but I'm limited by what I can do about it for the moment due to lack of money. If I get enough through my writing efforts, I'll build a deprivation chamber like Lily, and possibly a mantium, a room filled with mirrors such that you see reflections of yourself based on the ancient Greek oracle, temple, at Delphi, places where people communicated with the spirit world, hashtag 291.32 or BL613 at the library, which modern-day near-death experience /NDE explorer Raymond Moody has experimented with. When you look intensely at a reflection of yourself in a meditative state, it supposedly has a great effect on freeing up the hidden thoughts of your mind locked away beneath the wall of repression. I'd like to try it sometime, and the only way to do it is to build my own mantium. Carl Jung and the duality of man. Only the living presence of the eternal images can lend the psyche a dignity which makes it morally possible for a person to stand by his own soul, and be convinced that it is worth his while to persevere with it. Only then will he realize that the conflict is in him, and that the discord and the tribulation are riches which should not be squandered by attacking others. Carl Gustav Jung, 1875–1961. To confront a person with his own shadow is to show him his own light. Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a neo-Freudian mystic who believed, like his ex-buddy Sigmund, that the subconscious mind, which is the psychology jargon word for soul, is where all the action is in the human psyche. Free, enlightened people don't have much difference between what's in the subconscious mind, soul, and what's in the conscious mind, ego, how you want to appear to others, but most normal people repress the subconscious mind for a variety of reasons, such that their conscious reality is like the tip of an iceberg above the surface of the water, while the real essence in their souls, their primal divine spark, is hidden away in the subconscious mind because they want to be successful, sociable, and trendy as defined by the culture they live in, so they conform to its conventions while repressing who they really are. Carl Jung started out beside the father of psychology Sigmund Freud as his friend and intellectual partner in their agreement about the subconscious mind, but broke off relations and went his own way because he was more mystical, more into the supernatural parts of life. He wanted to reach the unattainable depths that lie in the human psyche, this magical utopian Eden many of us are preoccupied with, which is the essence of the most positive aspect of human behavior, to keep going further to see what's in there, to reach for the limits of the imagination and the collective unconscious. Whereas Freud believed that the libido, the inner store of primal energy within an individual, was almost all about sex, Jung didn't agree and thought it was more like a life drive, a constant attempt to try to release the angst and energy inside to satisfy our curiosity about life in general. Jung believed that man in general is guided by the mythical framework through which humanity operates that is hidden away in the subconscious mind. Life in the modern world disrupts this natural way of looking at things, this way of living, to such an extent that many people get all messed up, thus suffering from neurotic and psychotic illnesses. In a goal-oriented capitalist society that knows only money, production, and the work ethic, there is no more need for heroes and villains, lovers, wise men, partiers, hedonists, and gods. Because this richness of depth is not there, people in the modern world live stressed out lives alien to their true natures. Jung, like me, believed that within all of us, there lies a genetic seed or some supernatural essence that houses within it all the collective memories, development, and evolution of the human race since the beginning of time. By exploring it over his lifetime, he hoped he could get close to this collective unconscious. Quite often we just get brief momentary glimpses of it, but Jung was obsessed with trying to access it as clearly as he could to go back to the roots of civilization, which he never quite did. But then again, shamanistic recreational substances weren't as common and known about en masse back in the 1930s and 40s as they are these days, so I believe we now have the means to get much closer to this other spiritual world. Carlos Castaneda, Castaneda.com, talked about in his apprenticeship with Don Juan. Through his several books about the subject. Over his lifetime, Jung had a number of dreams and visions and believed that voices from beyond himself communicated to him inside his mind, like the famous case of his talks with the fictitious person Philemon. I too have experienced this phenomena while on vision quests with mind-altering substances, which is why I am now open to the possibility that housed within each of us as human individuals is a storehouse of psychic supernatural energy from humanity before us that usually only comes out in glimpses, but I'm convinced it can be accessed clearly if we keep searching and eventually figure out how to do it. This storehouse is either housed in the soul or in our genes and comes out when we do something right that accesses it, which is quite rare to do in ordinary living. It's a mystical, non-rational link between us as individuals in the modern world with our primal roots. Whether this knowledge comes from God, nature, or extraterrestrial mortal creators who created us through genetic engineering doesn't matter. The important thing is that we hold the secrets to our beginnings hidden away deep within ourselves that can be accessed by doing the right things to open up the floodgates of our subconscious minds. I'm a level-headed man who generally doesn't believe much in the New Age scene, but once you experience something like this at least once in your life, the paradigm shifts. You realize there could be something there. Even though I still can't be totally positive about it, my several experiences with something beyond myself in my head have led me to look at my life in the so-called real world as a minor affair of trivial things and look to the exploration of this phenomena as my only true interest while in this body. It's like I'm looking for the reassurance that there's a holy grail out there that will satisfy me, that there's some supernatural, spiritual power within the realm of all life that's within me that I'm a part of. Maybe we only come face to face with this force as we near death if it, in fact, exists, but I want more, not just the glimpses I feel here and there. I want to see it head on, kind of like John C. Lilly wrote about in his several books about his experiences in the sensory deprivation tank while under the influence of ketamine. While standing on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro, Carl Jung made the following remark. Standing on a hill in the East African plains, I saw herds of thousands of wild beasts, grazing in soundless peace, beneath the primeval world, as they had done for unimaginable ages of time. And I had the feeling of being the first man, the first being to know all this. The whole world around me was still in the primitive silence and knew not that it was. In this very moment in which I knew it, the world came into existence, and without this moment it would never have been. Jung was a spiritual man. He believed in a Christian God, or at least a supreme being. I read that he went to church every Sunday with his wife of 47 years or thereabouts. Anyway, Jung was the first guy in the modern era, barring the Greek philosophers and a few other intellectuals, who openly discussed this duality of good and evil within human nature. He called the dark side the shadow and believed it was one part of us but not our most powerful part. He believed the natural destiny for free, enlightened people was the pursuit of good, to go naturally towards the light force of the universe, which is God, and when we do this after first befriending our dark sides to understand it and know it, we cease to be dualistic, we became bathed in only goodness. But to get there, he said, it's necessary to open up our shadow to ourselves as individuals, because we have to get over our fear and repression to see it for what it is. Only then, will we know who we fully are and have the means to better control this dark side within us. His analogy was that we're naturally beings of light. When we let the darkness in, it gives us room to explore this side of ourselves, understand it, then return to the light transformed as more complete people intent on using our powers of goodness, because we now have been through the dark side, know it causes pain, violence, and animosity if we act out against other people. The experience of the dark side, according to Jung, helps us mature to go back to our good sides with greater strength and conviction. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule. Jung described 3 possible outcomes for evil people. They get away with their evil and live freely. They self-destruct and commit suicide either directly or indirectly. They incur the wrath of their fellow citizens and are destroyed by them. The dark side represents unbounded potential because you get to explore the deepest, darkest dungeons of your soul, but like Joseph Campbell would tell you about the archetypal mythic hero's journey, the hero always metaphorically goes through the darkest abyss in the pit of hell, is slashed to pieces by life's struggles, the proverbial monster, his dark side, but then slowly, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, he resurrects himself, rises up to heal, get stronger, come to a higher version of himself, conquer all his demons and become whole, since he's now experienced his full self, the good and the bad. There's now a unification within him of these opposing forces which make him a whole person where the noble side always dominates. He has opened up this unused potential within himself that he's faced head-on, now understands himself more completely, and that helps him in becoming a better member of his community to help others live better lives. These opposites unite, and since we are beings of light and God's light is always in us, the darkness yields to the light and we become virtuous, better morally and more helping of our fellow man, because we came to this conclusion through our experiences in the real world. So it goes much deeper than a repressed person who has never experienced his dark side practicing a naive allegiance to God, so he doesn't understand who he fully is. When you become your full self by experiencing both dualities of life, you're now in harmony with the universe and the duality vanishes to become only goodness. The purpose of life is to experience both our good and evil natures, then naturally gravitate back to the good, because that's who we are, since we have the positive light of our Creator, God, within us, which is ultimately stronger than everything else out there. Through this maturing process of living through some of the darkest moments within the realm of human experience, the human being is able to let go of the egotistical arrogance of youth to gravitate towards a less competitive, more cooperative, humble way of living, because he has nothing to prove to the world anymore. He's been there, done that for the best and the worst the world has to offer. He knows what's real, knows who he is inside, and he doesn't have to play own-upmanship games with others anymore, because the journey goes inward to live a peaceful life true to himself without needing all that vanity and glitter from the outside world. This is the theory according to Carl Jung, Buddhism, Zen, and a smattering of other philosophers throughout history interested in exploring the dual nature of man. Jung said, "Suppression of the shadow is like remedying a headache by a beheading. In the last resort, there is no good that cannot produce evil or evil that cannot produce good." There are several biographies of Carl Jung, such as Jung, Man and Myth by Vincent Brome, 1978, and C.G. Jung, The Haunted Prophet by Paul J. Stern, 1976. Chapter 2. Odds and Ends of the Transcendence Quest. Get high on life. Altering your consciousness to get high on life is to ride your natural flow to wherever it takes you. Whatever you do to free yourself from the general mundanity of the human condition is good, as long as you don't infringe on the rights of others in the process. There are gadgets out there like biofeedback machines, strobe lights, psychedelic lamps, light and sound machines, and relaxation machines that I've seen advertised in New Age magazines that supposedly help you get to altered states of consciousness by getting both hemispheres of the brain working together at the same time. One of them, the David, digital audio-visual integration device, costs about $1,000. There are offshoot New Age type movements out there that claim you can reach higher altered states by listening to certain sounds or making certain chanting sounds with your mouth, by wearing certain clothes and sitting in different positions, somewhat like yoga. Besides physical activities, My two main other activities to stay inspired are creative and intellectual pursuits. Some creative things I do with my hands, but many come from the mind, such as the writing of this book, which helps to keep me feeling good. The pursuit of wisdom and truth to live by your own intuitive standard and discover your true identity is the highest way to live. If you ain't living like this, you ain't really got no self-respect, therefore you got nothing. When we were kids, we would things to try to get dizzy, like spin around and around on a gadget they had at the playground. I remember riding bikes down hills real fast to get a rush. When I got older, I got into swimming distances in open bodies of water. It gave me a freeing feeling of going back to my primal roots. Sometimes I did over 3.5 hours at a time. The outdoors and nature are all good: hikes, bike rides, camping, canoeing, mountain climbing, farming, gardening, or even driving through some place like a majestic national park. There are plenty around. I remember driving through the Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah Valley region. That was a great trip. Stuff like this are all examples of trying to get natural highs. There are other things though. There's a big movement connected with the eyes. The sense of vision takes up a lot of space in the brain. Our visual perception is wired into us to perceive what's normal. If this is altered somehow by looking at something that's not normal perception, like a series of psychedelic screensavers on the computer, they could activate the processing centers of the mind, send neurotransmitters popping, release endorphins, and give you a high. Type the term psychedelic art into search engines to get lots of cool, computer-generated designs. There are mandalas, circular drawings some Navajo Indians and Tibetans make in the sand, based on the idea that everything emanates from a center, which is God. They are supposed to give you visions if you stare at them or meditate while looking at them. A spinning prayer wheel that has several strategically placed slits in it such that your eyes see it move at a certain frequency supposedly has some effect on your mind. Some electronics and head shops sell strobe lights which could have an effect if you stare at them. Try closing your eyes and see if you can see something. Press different parts of your eyes with your fingers to see if you can create a visual image to look at with your eyes still closed. Staring at something can help induce self-hypnosis. Focus on peripheral vision, vision at the sides of your eyes, for a while as opposed to direct vision. Beyond music, there is something about the steady rhythmic sounds of a drum beat that lulls the brain in a sense of relaxation. I read that 180 plus beats per minute alters brainwaves and stimulates the parasympathetic system. It works for either listening to a drum or playing one yourself. Listening to monks chanting and New Age music also has the same effect. Try the terms New Age music, chants, yamantaka, yani, vangelis, brain-mind bulletin, brain synchronization, synchronization tapes, or synchronization sounds in a search engine. Chanting the universal Om sound supposedly does something to the harmonic resonance around you that makes you feel calm and transcendent. People sometimes do this in a group. Singing in a choir, singing alone, playing in a band, and playing a musical instrument alone always elevates one's moods. Dancing freely can free your mind, body, and soul together, especially if you're high on something and dancing in the moonlight around a bonfire. Natural air in nature and near the ocean produces negative ions which are supposed to be healthy for you, but metal neutralizes the charge of negative ions, which is why there are so few in homes and in cities. But you can buy machines called ionizers, not air purifiers, humidifiers, or dehumidifiers, that put negative ions in the air. This supposedly has a good effect on your state of mind. I cover meditation, visualization, yoga, massage, lucid dreaming, acupressure, massage, rolfing, qigong, stress reduction, saunas, hot springs, aromatherapy, herbal baths, holistic medicine, and other alternative techniques in my medical/wellness book. Try number 133, hashtag 155-158, number 291, hashtag 611-613, fitness section, yoga books, and hashtag 615.5, holistic section, at the library for books that deal with these topics. Closely related to meditation but a bit more new agey and extreme is the idea of having out-of-body experiences/obs by training yourself to do it through meditation. Robert A. Monroe, Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences, Faber, Virginia, is the pioneer in this field, but recently some others are repackaging his materials in new books and tapes on the subject. Tai Chi, Zen, dance, the Feldenkrais method of body awareness through exercise and movement, and yoga are moving forms of meditation. So are sustained physical aerobic activities like running, walking, biking, swimming, cross-country skiing, etc., a rhythmic motion outdoors where your mind can roam free. Prayer is another form of meditation. Deep breathing is used to attain altered states of consciousness, often supplemented with recreational substances. Simply focus on your breath while you meditate. Try to get a sense of rhythmic sense of deep breathing. Breath retention is an advanced pranayama technique where you spend up to 10 seconds breathing in, let it out in about 5 and do it over and over again to get a bunch of oxygen into your system. The nose and mouth are near the brain, and when you fill them up with air, not to the point of hyperventilating but deep breathing for a sustained amount of time, anywhere from 10 minutes to several hours, it supposedly has an effect on the brain. You can do it sitting or laying down. Look up the term pranayama, the yoga of breathing, aka conscious control of the inner life energy or chi, in a search engine. Try to hold your breath for as long as possible. Do this several times in one session. Go high enough up a mountain where the air is thinner to experience the effects of high altitude. Be careful until you get used to it. Don't use mind-altering substances until you are well adjusted to the altitude and the climate. Tai Chi, a gentle form of martial arts, supposedly helps put you into a trance. Sitting in a sweat lodge/sauna helps clean the body of toxins and purify the soul. The extreme sports or aesthetic sports can give you an aesthetic spiritual physical rush. I profile most in my travel and recreation book. Some are rollerblading, skateboarding, snowboarding, skiing, surfing, hang gliding, skydiving, bungee jumping, dirt bike riding, motocross riding, amusement park rides, etc. John C. Lilly created a sensory deprivation chamber to do ketamine in, but you can experience sensory deprivation by laying in a quiet, dark room with a blindfold and earplugs on, shutting everything out but your mind. Planetariums often have laser shows. It's good to visit to get a novel experience. Read profound books. Examine different ideas, particularly mystical, New Age ones, and the major questions like: where do we come from? Is there life after death in another dimension? Is there a God and a heaven? Do UFOs contain travelers from another planet? Are there ghosts among us? Do some people have psychic powers? Contemplate your life. Contemplate the life of the universe. Seek your own standard of wisdom. Learn knowledge that interests you. Philosophy-type books go from number 100 to number 199 at the library. Fasting and other forms of deprivation to wear the body down, such as long pilgrimages and hikes in the woods alone, as the Indians used to do in their vision quests, have a way of opening up the spiritual pathways to let the gods enter one's subconscious mind. The intent is not to deprive yourself but to temporarily free yourself from the regular comforts and needs of life to focus on your inner states. Try number 291 at the library. For interesting accounts of a sensory deprivation chamber, read some of John C. Lilly's books. In addition to his tank, he wore a blindfold, earplugs and gloves on his hands. He also took the hallucinogenic drug ketamine. Extreme sleep deprivation can cause irreparable harmful changes to brain chemistry, but moderate sleep deprivation, like staying awake for 35 to 50 hours or so, is good for creativity. The subconscious mind, because it hasn't had a chance to dream, comes to the conscious mind. Religion is a means for many people to escape from the general mundanity of the human condition. Refer to my list of New Age websites in my wellness book for interesting ideas. There is a chapter about pilgrimages in my travel book. Be altruistic. Do things to help others. Live a simple life like Henry David Thoreau did. Wean yourself off the materialist, pop culture, corporate advertising lifestyle you were raised on. I cover this in my money book. Check out Activism and the Ecology of the World. I cover dreams and lucid dreaming in my medical book. Try number 133 at the library for books about dreams. asdreams.org. avcweb.com/dreams/tutorial.htm. dreamgate.com. dreamwv.com. dr-dream.com. itop.net. iafrica.com/dreamnet/index.html. lucidity.com. If anybody knows about any of these things, I'd appreciate it if you sent me the knowledge. I would use the information in a future book because it is my life's calling to attempt to get to the other side of my consciousness to see what's there and share it with anyone who wants to listen. Mind tools. There are body-mind machines you can buy that might massage your neck or head, biofeedback machines, and other machines that claim to put your mind in a relaxed, supervigilant alpha state, such as glasses you put on that shine some kind of strobo-light at you, or sound recordings that supposedly do positive things to you. Mind machines traditionally use sound and or light to supposedly alter the brainwave frequency of the user, which is supposed to send the user into a relaxed, altered state of awareness. Lately they're talking about putting electrodes on the head to send a mild electrical current through the brain, kinda like Wilder Penfield's experiments in the 1950s. In New Age magazines, there are ads for gadgets to stimulate the mind. If you know of any, send me the info and I'll put it into the next edition of this book. Mind power type books are at hashtag 153.14 to number 158 at the library. Go to the hashtag 793-4 section of your library for books dealing with brain teasers, creativity, and how to open up your mind. I've seen a few creative thinking type books in the business section, hashtag 658.401 to hashtag 658.70 or HD30. vigorousmind.com. To imaginethis.com/ls.shtml. 50megs.com, cool backgrounds. activityconnection.com. adobe.com, creativity software for drawing, etc. adventuresunlimitedpress.com. airplanenoise.com/article/brainfitness.pdf. alz.org/we_can_help_mental_and_social_activities.asp. apa.org/releases/exercise06.html. Exercise helps sustain mental activity as we age. asaging.org/asav2/mindalerT/fitness.cfm. avsjournal.com, auditory and visual stimulation. bbrace.laughingSquid.net/mental-transposition.html. bbsonline.org, behavioral and brain sciences. bellydoc.com/article/article7.htm, mental fitness, exercises for the brain. biof.com. brainvibe.com. book.de/book/01536/336_keep_brain_8 3 _help_memory_loss_and_mental_fitness.html. buy-ebook.com/games.htm. kbuys.net/store/mind_machines.htm. caii-dc.com, Creative Associates International Creative Artist.com. clownfrown.com. creativeclassroom.com. creativeconnection.org. creativehomepainting.com. creativelearningcenter.com, Creative Learning Company, New Zealand. creativenonfiction.org. creativequotations.com. creativesoftwareinc.com. creativespyrit.on.ca. creativesurplus.com. creativeteaching.com. creativetime.org. creatormagazine.com. criticalthinking.com, 800 458-4849, books. dbs-stn.org, Deep Brain Stimulation. Designinference.com, Neuroplasticity and the Power of Mental Force. Diffusion.org.uk. Digitalmeditation.com. drhugo.org. dreamessentials.com/about/mind-machine.html. dreamflow.de. ejamos.com/pt/ptart_shin_040.htm, Physiology of Meditation. elixa.com/mental/dynamind.htm. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/mental-skill_game. brainage.com, Nintendo. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/mind_machine. eurekaranch.com. x-forces.com/career-centers/memory-skill/the-importance-of-mental-for-improving-your-memory.html. x-forces.com/career-center/memory-skill/the-importance-of-mental-for-improving-your-memory.html. fatbraintuis.com. fiu.edu/tilde-misrox/mind-mock-faq.html. fringeware.com, Brain Tools. frognet.net/dxm/trip-programs.html. guysesworks.com/drempels. getnet.com/creative. gosportslink.com, Athletic Performance Enhancement. hackcanada.com/ice3/wetware/mindmachines.html. haviousinegod.com, Cool Art. health.netscape.com/story/2007/01/23/study-finds-mental-stimulation-combats-Alzheimer's. healthcybernetics.com/does-cyberneticity-ran-position-work.html. highlandpdx.com/blog/p=145, mental stimulation brings back memories. howdzign.com. ingrid-christiansen.com/holisticfitness/mental.htm. innertraditions.com, 802-gotoid. intrepidtrips.com. caral.com/article/mental-stimulation-combats-Alzheimer's.htm. key-z.com. labs.google.com. lifedynamics.com/article/mental-health/subconscious_mind.html. lifehack.org/article/lifehack/decrease-brain-improve-mental-fitness.html. longevity. dead website, try.dash.com, thoughtco.com, thebalance.com, tripsavvy.com, and verywell.com/od/mental-fitness/tp/mental_fitness.htm. luxvivant.com. maximumchi-energy.co.uk/catalog.html. medicinenet.com, making our minds last a lifetime. memory-key.com/article/stimulation.htm. mental-stimulation.biz. mental-workout.com. merkala.com. merkala.com/2004/apr/7/mind_training.htm, mind training exercises keep your brain fit as you age. mindextension.com. mindgear.com. mind-gear.com. mind-gear.com/faq.htm. mindmachine.com. mindmachines.com. mind-machines.de. mindmachinestore.com. mindemodulations.com. mindpowertools.com. mind-shop.de. mindsrefined.com. mindtools.com. mindtraining.net. motivationonline.com. mozarteffect.com. mpeters.de/mpeweb/hop/links/links.htm, Cool fractals art. mygoals.com. neurologychannel.healthology.com/mental-health/focusarea.htm. new-mind.com. new-mindmachines.com. nobodyhere.com. oakland.lib.oh.us/educate/subjects/writing.html, creative writing. palmsprings-life.com/media/palm-springs-guide/annual-2007/use-your-head. paulnussbaum.com/thelearningvaccine.pdf. positscience.com/newsroom/news/news/0408007b.php, puzzles build the muscles of the mind. ppocubes.com, creativity through personal pattern overlay. rmlearning.com. school-for-champions.com/vitality/mental_fitness.htm. serendip.brynmauer.edu/mind/adaptation.html. shackley.net, products. sharpbrains.com. sodaplay.com. spiritfitness.ca. spotdiscounts.com/self-help. swedish.org/16194.cfm, mental fitness, exercises for the brain. talentdevelop.com. technoccult.com/archive/category/ai. thecuriousdreamer.com, dream images. thementalfitnesscenter.com. thetavoyager.com. thinksmart.com. thirdage.com/healthgate/files/14618.html. toolsforwellness.com, 800-456-9887. vuw.ac.nz/home/subjects_degrees/subjects/fill.aspx, improve your mental fitness with philosophy, the ultimate workout for your brain. webmd.com/alzheimer/news. wellnesstools.com. wordpress.com/tag/falsifiability/feed, deep brain stimulation, DBS. youngagainforever.com/cybernetic-transposition.htm. zefrank.com/scribbler. College for Creative Studies. 201 East Kirby, Detroit, Michigan, 48202-4034. 800-952-2787. Fax, 313-872-2739. Admissions at ccscad.edu. ccscad.edu. Creative Center. 10850 Emmett Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68164. 402-898-1000. Fax, 402-898-1301. Admissions at thecreativecenter.com. thecreativecenter.com. Creative Education Foundation, CEF. 1050 Union Road, Buffalo, New York, 14224. 716-675-3181. Fax, 716-675-3209. Fosters creative thinking in all areas of life, provides training programs and materials including monthly newsletter Creativity in Action, various books, videos, audio tapes, and periodicals. International Center for Creative Thinking, New York. 800-328-4465. National Association for Creative Children and Adults. 8080 Spring Valley Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45236. 513-631-1777. No Dreamer. 800 Galucid. Sleeping glasses with flashing lights. Tools for exploration. 800-456-9887. The Near-Death Experience/NDE. When buried, it is ugly and weak. When raised, it will be beautiful and strong. When buried, it is a physical body. When raised, it will be a spiritual body. There is of course a physical body, so there has to be a spiritual body. 1 Corinthians 15, 43-44. The savage, it is said, fails to distinguish the visions of sleep from the realities of waking life, and accordingly when he has dreamed of his dead friends, he necessarily concludes that they have not perished, but that their spirits continue to exist in some place and some form, though in the ordinary course of events, they elude the perception of his senses. James Gregory Fraser, The Golden Bough, Book 2, Killing the God. Death is part of life. If you're enlightened, you must educate yourself about it. Find solace in religion and books that deal with the spiritual aspects of the near-death experience. Many classical cases of the near-death experience have been tabulated by such writers as Raymond Moody, Life After Life, Reflections on Life After Life, Kenneth Ring, Dannion Brinkley, and Michael Sabom, all professional people who talked to people in hospitals who died and were then resuscitated, reportedly having experienced a powerful, peaceful vision of God and undergoing spiritual transformations. Betty Eadie is a Native American who wrote some book entitled Into the Light or something like that, which became a massive bestseller, but my vibe of her doesn't feel that she's as sincere and honest as the other guys I mentioned. Anybody can weave a story out of the collective works of stories about the subject before them. Carl Jung, in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, comments on an NDE when he was about 70. I can describe the experience only as the ecstasy of a non-temporal state in which present, past, and future are one. Everything that happens in time had been brought together into a concrete whole. Nothing was distributed over time, nothing could measured in temporal concepts. One is interwoven into an indescribable whole yet observes it with complete objectivity. Generally, an NDE has several common characteristics that many people have reported, among them: a quick life review like watching a montage of your life on TV. Detachment from their bodies. Seeing it while in spirit form, looking down at it. Meeting relatives and other dearly departed loved ones who have passed on. Some meet a saint, a wise old sage or Jesus. Deep feeling of peace. Short period of darkness, then a sense of going through a tunnel towards a powerful bright light of peace and love. They get to the border of this heavenly place. The feeling that they didn't want to return to human life, but either their mission on earth was not yet done or somebody on earth revitalized their bodies and bing, they were back in their bodies. Most people say they had a spiritual transformation after their NDEs. They now realized material things don't matter, love and knowledge does. They believe in God now more strongly than ever and live to help others. While Christians and Muslims believe in heaven, Buddhists and Hindus believe in reincarnation, evidence cited from cases of child geniuses, channelers of dead people, past life memories. We all like to think there's life after death, that there is some otherworldly dimension somewhere where the soul goes after death. This is where ghosts, goblins, and God somehow share space to live together. I hope so too. I'll know when I die. See ya on the other side, or maybe as fertilizer for Mother Earth. The classic debate continues as to whether the NDE is real, a product of divine intervention in another dimension, or simply an ego defensive gesture of the brain to protect the self from the painful reality of its own demise, or just oxygen deprivation of the brain during death. In my book A Free Spirit's Search for Enlightenment, I've cited John C. Lilly as a kindred spirit of sorts in the Final Frontier of Transcendence section. In his book The Center of the Cyclone, he talks about guardian angels that visited him on his experimental drug pursuits. They say they are my guardians, that they have been with me before at critical times, and that in fact they are with me always, but I am not usually in a state to perceive them. I am in a state to perceive them when I am close to the death of the body. Their magnificent, deep, powerful love overwhelms me to a certain extent, but I finally accept it. As they move closer, I find less and less of me and more of them in my being. They stop at a critical distance and say to me that at this time I have developed only to the point where I can stand their presence at this particular distance. If they came any closer, they would overwhelm me and I would lose myself as a cognitive entity, merging with them. They further say that I separated them into two, because that is my way of perceiving them, but that in reality they are one in the space in which I found myself. They say that I insist on still being an individual, forcing a projection onto them, as if they were too. They further communicate to me that if I go back to my body as I developed further, I eventually would perceive the oneness of them and of me, and of many others. Try hashtag 128.5, hashtag 133.5 hashtag 133.9 or BD444 and BF789 BF1277 for books about near-death experiences. There's an academic journal of near-death studies out there. In my quests to search for life after death, on TV I saw a reincarnation researcher from Virginia, whose name I didn't get, who said he studied over 2,000 people, mostly children, and actually took them back to the places they said they lived before, often finding their parents and corroborating their stories. For physical evidence, he claims they had the same birthmarks or a scar left over from a previous life followed the body to this life. Try number 133 at the library. nderf.org. melvinmorse.com. near-death.com. paul-elder.com. pmhatwater.com. International Association for Near-Death Studies. Box U20. University of Connecticut. Stores Connecticut 06268 203-486-4170. ians.org. The Final Frontier. The final frontier for me is my use of mind-altering substances. I see myself as a younger version of John C. Lilly, a scientist by profession who chose a life of exploring his inner states through the use of ketamine and other substances which you can read about in several books he's written. He lived to over 83 years old, which is not bad for a guy who did thousands of drug trips. If you want more info, refer to the book I've written about recreational substances. The Final Walk into the Ether. As long as I respect everybody else's right to live their lives their way and don't infringe on anyone else's space unless they invite me in, I'm living a perfectly harmonious life following my soul. When I get to the end, I figure I'll see myself as a guy who lived a good life true to himself. I'll walk into the ether calmly and maturely and take it like a man about to die because it'll be my season for it. I'm a Christian who has studied near-death experiences. I should be taken by God and go into the light because I accept Jesus as my personal Savior every day. I have repented of my sins, I have forgiven everybody who wronged me, and I try to be a good person. Death is common. People die in your community every day. Just read the obituaries. If you make it to old age, you beat the incredible odds against you. I figured I already beat the odds. I could have easily snapped my neck in the several accidents I was in, so when it comes, I'll take it like a man.